Undeterred Houthi attacks squeeze international trade as container shipping through the Red Sea decline by 90%.
Here's a summary of the article.
Drone and missile barrages launched by Houthi rebels in Yemen are holding hostage a vital commercial waterway, delaying humanitarian aid and imposing millions of dollars of extra costs. Why it matters. U.S. and allied firepower has failed to stem the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden attacks, which are bolstered by an Iranian regime eager to arm its proxies. By the numbers, the interests of more than 65 countries have been affected, and at least 29 major shipping and energy companies have rerouted away from the region, according to a new U.S. intelligence report. Catch up quick. Houthi harassment of civilian and military vessels began late last year. The militant group initially said its attacks were in retaliation to Israel's war in Gaza. It carried 21,000 metric tons of fertilizer that officials feared would spark an ecological disaster. Bottom line. While many attacks have missed or been intercepted, Houthi stockpiles appear nowhere near exhausted, even as sporadic US and UK strikes against them continue, said Behnam Ben Talablu, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's think tank.
This post received a score of 3,000, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
There's two things I don't understand about this situation. 1. Isn't Egypt hurt the most by this, losing so many tolls through the Suez? I'm surprised they don't do anything about this. 2. My understanding is that Yemen is still in a civil war. Why would we not fund the shit out of the other side? Which I believe was the legit government anyway.
Egypt previously fought a 10-year counterinsurgency in Yemen and has no appetite, or funding, to do that again.
Egypt is investing a ton in its military currently. Hopefully it's to fight in Yemen rather than in Israel.
I think they are a lot more worried about insurgents than Israel.
Yeah, despite what the Egyptian politicians say to their own people, Egypt and Israel have a relatively good relationship. Most notably because they both see Hamas as an enemy.
And the US, West pays both of them to keep the peace.
Their Western favoritism is also pragmatic from a societal, worldview standpoint. Egypt took a few steps back, but ultimately understands the self-imposed mess the Mideast creates for itself. It's been involved in numerous negotiations and peace treaties. In case it hasn't become obvious, there's a direct correlation between women's rights and prosperity that non-Western nations have failed to grasp.
Given the fuel consumption of container ships, this is probably really bad for global warming.
Where is Greta Thunberg when the world needs her?
Supporting the Muslims on their war on Israel.
You mean she's not actually a policy expert but just a young person with a superpower? Obsessed with one thing?
When you don't fear your own death and don't feel for the suffering of your fellow citizens, it's very hard to beat you in war. That is why Islamic terrorism won't die. The problem is the ideology, not execution.
When you are mainly all about breaking shit and don't actually know how to build or invent anything, you eventually do lose. Unfortunately, it can take a while, and a lot gets broken in the meantime.
This is an incredibly succinct description of Muslim countries.
Maybe Egypt should do something about it. They are the ones losing the most in this.
Nah, they are too busy bankrupting themselves by building a $60 billion capital in the middle of nowhere.
And the presidential palace complex is ridiculous in size and opulence. It would make King Louis XIV envious. Also built as a fortress to keep everyone out. Europe was a lot cooler when it had a backbone. There, I said it.
As much as I hate imperialism, no European power and the US 100 years ago would tolerate their trade being disrupted. Touching their boat is just asking to be invaded and colonized.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.